Mr. Glenn Shorrock, welcome to the Australian Music Vault.
Mm-hmm.
And you are welcomed, of course, as an ARIA Hall of Fame member as a solo artist and as a group.
Yes.
Are you the only one who is in the Hall of Fame
I'm not sure.
like that?
I think maybe the Easy Beats and Stevie Wright, perhaps.
Yeah, and maybe Ross Wilson.
Yeah, and
However,
Daddy Cool.
a great thrill
Yes.
to be in there twice.
Twice. Well, I mean, as years go by, who knows? The Twilights might get in it, and the Axiom may get in it.
Well, that's right. You
And then I'd have four.
You'd have four. No one can catch you.
But like Jesse Owens, won't they?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Let's go back to the start. Born in the UK, came to Australia when you were 10, and the first band was the Checkmates.
It wasn't a band.
It wasn't a band.
No, we were a vocal group, or as they call them now, a boy band, don't they? They call vocal groups boy bands. I've never tried to figure that out, really.
And you did sort of doo-wop.
Yep.
Can you remember those songs?
Run Around Sue, you know. Here's my story, sad but true.
Yeah.
It's about a girl that I once knew, all that. And
Dion, maybe a little bit of Dion.
Well, that is Dion.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And what else?
Ruby Baby.
Yeah.
Dion's one of my favourite singers.
Is he?
Yeah, and I heard him, you know, as a young boy, man. And
you know, he's still making great records.
Oh yeah, he's very good now.
New York is my home.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Incredible.
He's a great blues player, and he's funky.
Yeah, he sure is. Have you ever seen him?
No, but I stood behind him in a line once.
Did you?
In a queue, you know.
Yeah.
I said, that's Dion, to my wife. She said, go and say hello. I said, oh, I don't want to. I was too embarrassed.
Where were you?
I can't remember. You know, security somewhere in an airport.
Yeah.
He had that sort of floppy cap on that he wears.
He wears that. That's right.
The Lowell George kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because he's losing his hair as well. I keep mine warm.
Yeah, right. So when did you first realise that you had a pretty special voice?
Oh, not for a long while, really.
Really? Mm-hmm. But in the Twilights.
Well, the Checkmates were a vocal group, and
were you up front?
Really? Pardon?
Were you up front?
No,
a vocal group
in Adelaide in those days. Performances were for Bobby Bright and the Bowmen and the Checkmates. So in other words, there was a lead singer, Cliff Richard-wise, a Shadow-style band, and a vocal group to provide more vocals.
Right.
And that was the de rigueur in the Adelaide scene back in the early 60s.
Right.
Of course, when 63 came along and the Beatles burst upon the scene, it changed everything, didn't it? I mean, the group became the entity. The bass player and the drummer are on the same democratic level as the others.
Of course.
So, yeah, I took leads, yes. I took leads, but that's just my personality.
So did you go from the Checkmates to the Twilights?
We just changed the name.
Oh, really? So it was the same personnel?
Yeah.
And really influenced by the Beatles?
Well, it wasn't the same. We had a bass singer. We were a four-piece.
Yep.
The bass player got arrested. So, say no more. Right. Then we were a trio.
Right, right.
And we changed our name to the Twilights. We started singing folk songs. If I Had a Hammer, and Michael rowed the boat ashore.
Really?
Hang down your head, Tom Dooley, those sort of things.
Yeah.
And, you know, along with the doo-wop and the Beach Boys and whatever harmony things, some Everly Brothers songs, they were a huge influence on my career. They taught me how to sing harmony, really.
I bet. Because there were two lead singers.
In the Twilights, when we morphed into the six-piece recording band that everybody knows, and went to Melbourne and, you know, did extensive tours of Phillip Island.
Did you feel you had to come to Melbourne? Was that where most groups would have left wherever they were to come here?
Yes, it was closer than Sydney.
Yeah.
But actually, a group came to one of our... You know, we had clubs in those days. They called them clubs, the Oxford Club or the Princeton Club. And they were dancers, basically. You know, you get a membership badge and you pay 50 shillings, 50 cents to get in, and we'd have a guest star every now and again.
Yeah.
And a band from Melbourne came in, and they were the Flies. Huh?
Ronnie Burns.
Ronnie Burns and the Flies. And they were in the back room, and they were like, we're going to go down well here because they're playing Beatles songs. They're playing Beatle records.
Right.
No, it was the Twilights doing it live.
Really?
And they freaked out. And their manager, Gary Sprite,
Yes.
said to the Twilights, I think you should come over to Pinocchio's and do a week there and see how you go.
Where
We
was
did.
Pinocchio's? Was that in Toorak Road?
Shorrock Road, just off Carter's Avenue.
Yeah. It was like a little... Was it a...
Well, they called it a discotheque.
Okay.
But it was a nightclub with
Yeah.
frothy coffee and
Yeah, right.
cheese fingers and stuff like that.
That's right. Cheese on toast.
Cheese on toast.
No alcohol?
No, not that I can recall.
No.
No, we didn't. I didn't drink much in those days.
Yeah.
Didn't bother. I came from a teetotal family, so
Really?
I didn't grow up with it.
What did your parents think of rock and roll?
Oh, Mum was okay with it.
Yeah.
Dad liked the opera. Dad liked the arias, Gigli and Caruso.
Okay.
And so I grew up listening to them. My mother's side of the family, they were more into the crooners of the day.
Right.
So when Elvis came along, that was it. I just had my own hero.
Yeah.
I was 12 when I heard Heartbreak Hotel in the migrant hostel in Adelaide. I could hear this sound, and I ran down this corridor, and there was a radio going. It was the ABC, and Heartbreak Hotel it was. And that was Heartbreak Hotel by a new singer called Elvis Presley. Now it's back to Frank Chacksfield and his orchestra.
Yeah.
And I just said, I've got to hear more of that. I've got to see what that's all about. I mean, I knew about Bill Haley and Rock Around the Clock, but Elvis was the real deal, He was the first rock star.
Well, he also had a sense of danger
Oh, yeah.
to him.
There was always
didn't
a
he?
dangerous side to him,
Yeah. Whereas Bill Haley...
He was sexy, He was sexy.
Yeah.
He was sexy to young boys and he was sexy to young girls as well.
Yeah. Did you go back before Elvis to blues and, to Howling Wolf and Muddy Waters and
After.
those people afterwards?
Later, I had to find out where this rock and roll came from eventually. The first of all, I didn't care where it came from. I just wanted to have more of it.
Yeah.
And, Gene Vincent and
Yeah.
the Everly Brothers. Little Richard, I love Little Richard.
Really?
Yeah, he's still the best rock and roll voice ever, I think. He scared the shit out of Dad.
Did he?
Yeah.
Fats
Domino.
Domino.
Turn it down.
Yeah. Now, you talked before about the Twilights scaring Ronnie Burns and the Flies.
Mm-hmm.
You became known for being able to... Yeah. Tell us about that.
I don't know. We just gravitated to it. We were a band of brothers, really, that learned how to become performers. We were close, and we still are close. We were two lead singers, myself and Paddy McCartney.
Yep.
The remnants of the vocal group Twilights, and when we just heard the Beatles, that's what we wanted to sound like, and we had the happy knack of being able to recreate it, and also all the '60s stuff we did, the Kinks and the Stones. We all cut our teeth on those.
That's right. You did Satisfaction, I think. Which songs did you do?
19th Nervous Breakdown, Little Red Rooster, Not Fade Away.
Wow.
Not all of them,
No. And did you try and...
I tried to sound like them.
Yeah.
I tried to sing like them.
Yes.
I have a knack of being able to
Mimic. Yeah.
Not impersonate, but just mimic. I can phrase and sound like whoever I want to sound like.
And yet, later on,
Yeah.
which we'll get to in a moment, but Little River Band, you had your own sound.
Sound, yeah. To me, it's all derivative. I don't think I'm anything unique.
No.
People say, "Oh, we can always tell your voice, Glenn." And I say, "Can you? Really? Does it stand out that much?" It never did to me.
Really?
No, really.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to that in a moment. After the Twilights, split in 69.
Yeah.
Now, you'd spent a little bit of time as a manager
Yes.
of the Avengers.
The Brisbane Avengers.
Yeah.
There was an Avengers that came out of New Zealand,
Right.
so named New Zealand Avengers, Brisbane Avengers. Actually, when the Twilight split up, I was at a loss, really.
And why did you split?
As I said, we were a band of brothers, and we had a sort of a pact. No one was allowed to leave. So when somebody left, that was it.
Right.
I mean, it was a stupid rule, but it happened. That's the way it happened.
So one person wanted out.
Yeah, we were due to go back to England. We'd been there once, and we thought we'd give it another try.
Yep.
And we were due to go, and Lavery, our drummer, who's been there twice before, said, "Oh no, I can't do it again. I don't want to do it again." And he left. And we just looked at each other and we said, "Oh, well," Terry looked at me and said, "Well, I'm leaving too." So, okay, well, I'll leave as well.
And that was it.
That was it.
And
Silly.
silly. You regret that, looking back?
I don't regret it, but it would have been interesting to know had we continued.
Yeah.
Because we were a very good band. We were well known as a live band more than a recording band. And as you said, we could present what people were listening to from England and America live on stage. And
were you writing anything at that point?
yeah, I wrote a couple of tunes very early on before I left Adelaide.
Right.
And we had a couple of local hits there.
Yeah.
The first one I wrote, the first single was called "I Don't Know Where the Wind Will Blow Me." Prophetic.
And so, say a typical Twilight set would be what, 70-30 in terms of covers and original?
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
We never went completely original.
Because people love those hits.
Yeah, well, they still do. I mean, I still do other people's material now.
Yeah.
I don't see why I shouldn't.
Why? Exactly.
There's a whole repository of great music there to draw from.
Yeah. Were you a good manager?
I don't know. I only did it for 3 months.
Right.
I gave them what I could.
Well, you'd had some experience.
I'd had some experience, but I was still only 20-something,
Right.
And it was here in Melbourne, and the dance scene was still big. Opus and Penthouse and Piccadilly in the suburbs of Melbourne.
Bertie's, was that happening?
But that was more of a club. The club scene in the city centre was terrific, but it hadn't really got going then. And I looked after them and drove them to the gigs and drove them home, and had to stand in the wings, when they went on.
So you could feel.
Can I come too?
Yeah. So that.
And then
Axiom.
And then at Ian Meldrum's place, one Saturday night, Brian and I, well, as I say, Brian walked up to me, tugged me on the sleeve, and I looked down. I said, he said, "Do you want to form a band?" I said, "Okay, Brian, yeah. You got any songs?" He said, "I've got Arkansas Grass." I said, "I know, but have you got any songs?" So we retired to the back seat of his Simca.
Yes.
Had a meeting. As it were.
Yeah.
Ran out of papers, went back into Ian's place and started looking around the room for players.
Right.
It was a casual thing that gradually got serious.
So it really started at Molly's, or the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who else was in the band? It was Don Mudie.
We got Chris Stockley from the Cam-Pact.
Stockley.
Don Mudie was with Brian in the group.
Yep.
And Doug Lavery from the Valentines.
The Valentines.
So we were a 5-piece. And then Doug Lavery left, and one of the Brisbane Avengers played drums for us until the band split up.
Yeah.
We only had 2 years together.
Split up in England.
Yeah, fell apart.
Those fell apart. But some incredible songs,
Little Ray of Sunshine, yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
Arkansas Grass, great songs.
And My Baby's Gone. They're the three
Yeah.
singles that we had.
And what about this idea that the press was referring to you as a supergroup?
Yeah, we didn't like that. Well, I didn't like that.
I don't think he did either.
No, I'm not fond of over publicity, and I'm a shy retiring man.
Yeah, under promise and over deliver.
Keep your feet on the ground and stretch as far as you can.
Yeah. Yeah, he said it was very, very frustrating.
It was a label that was put on us because that was what was happening in England.
Yep.
You know, with Traffic, Blind Faith,
Cream.
Yeah, they were termed supergroups. And,
Yeah.
of course, we copied everything that the English did at the time.
He talked about your first gig together. Can you remember what happened at that first gig?
No. I'm surprised he can.
He said that you came out and you did Sea of Heart.
Ah, right.
Don Gibson,
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah. Now, that wasn't the first gig. That was the first gig in England.
Right.
And we were auditioning for the record company.
Okay.
Right. And, we were these guys from Australia.
Right.
And we wanted to be a country rock band.
Yeah.
A la The Band and Crosby, Stills and Nash, Poco. That's what we wanted to be.
Yeah.
But in England at the time, they hadn't got a hold of that.
Right.
So, when we opened for Sea of Heartbreak, you could see people going, taxi.
Yeah. So were you as into the American style music as Brian was? I know he's,
Yeah, the band was almost as, what's the word?
Influential.
Influential. Now I'm trying to think of the other word, epiphany, an epiphany like the Beatles were, but not so much. But they just took it as up a different road, and it had that wonderful historical quality about it.
Yeah.
They were non-pop stars,
Yeah.
and along with it.
And that appealed to you after being in the Twilights?
Yeah.
Because you'd had a degree of pop success.
Pop stuff, yeah.
I'm sure there were girls chasing you and all of that.
No, I was chasing them. But, the bands like the Zoot and Masters Apprentices and Valentines, they took that role, really. I've just always been interested in harmony and singing and writing and, the creative side of it rather than the pop star side.
Well, let's move on. No, hang on. Before we move on, after Axiom broke up in '69, you spent time as a backing singer for Cliff Richard.
A short time.
Yeah. But how did that come about?
Well, the Axiom split up and left me high and dry in England, so I just eked out a living. I started writing songs. I got a publishing contract, such as it was, and did some backup vocals. Cliff Richard was surrounded by Australians in those days. His manager was a guy called Peter Gormley.
Yep.
From here in Australia. Olivia was there, John Farrar.
Yep. Terry Britton, maybe, was he
Terry,
involved?
Yeah, Terry was there. Yeah, we all gravitated like a little Aussie mafia, and I've been there 4 years, doing all sorts of silly things.
Right.
And then the fourth year, Cliff's manager came to me. He said, "Cliff's doing 2 months at the London Palladium. Would you be interested in backing him up?" I said, "Shit, yeah, I'd love it." And I said, "How much is it?" He said, £100 a week. £100 a week? I'd never heard that sort of money for a long, long while. The Twilights, even with #1 hits here in Australia, never earned those sort of sort of money.
As a backing singer with him?
With Terry Britton.
Right.
And Alan Tarney and Trevor Spencer and Kevin Peake, all of whom came out of Adelaide.
Right.
Who I grew up with as a boy. So that was a wonderful thing.
And were they playing instruments or they just there?
Oh, no, they were Cliff's band. Yeah.
But you were simply a vocalist.
Yeah, they stuck a guitar on me for a while.
Did they?
Yeah, and then took that off me. Said, "Just stand there." It was funny though. The opening night, London Palladium. Wow, fantastic. Obviously, it's packed, and they're all Cliff Richard fans, and it's going gangbusters, and we all get back in the dressing room afterwards and having a few drinks, and the manager comes up, Peter comes up and says, "Oh, it was a great show, boys, great show, you did great. Glenn, you were fantastic, thanks very much. But Glenn, it's Cliff's show."
Really?
I'm up there doing my thing.
Yeah. Could you feel Cliff having a look back at you?
No, he's a lovely man.
Yeah.
Now, in fact, I taught him a couple of moves, actually.
I bet.
did. Yeah, if ever you talk to him, you can remind him of that.
All right.
Because the Twilights used to do a bit of a chorrie, a bit of a,
Of course.
as you did in those
Needle
days.
in a haystack.
Yeah, she did water. Yeah, that was a good time. It was great. That gig paid my fare home to Australia, having met with Glenn Wheatley, Graham Goble, Birtles, and sung with those guys, and we decided to come back home to Australia and to Melbourne and give it a crack.
As Mississippi.
As Mississippi. I said we're going to have to change the name. I said I'm not going to be in a band that's got an American river. That's...
Yeah, whose idea was that?
I don't know.
Not a good one, though.
Well, it's not really a big deal, but it was.
No.
I thought to myself, well, why not choose something a little more modest? And luckily enough, Little River exit 1 mile on the way down to Geelong. Perfect.
Yeah.
Worked.
Little River Band.
Little River Band, which has always been a bit of a mouthful. So as the years went by, the DJ sort of started to call it LRB.
LRB, yeah. Could you tell right from the start that you were onto something pretty special? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The songs were great. We sang harmony effortlessly.
Which is what you loved.
Which I love to do. You didn't have to teach people parts or anything, we just always...
So who were the main
together.
singers then? There was you...
Birtles and Graham Goble.
Right.
It was 3-part harmony.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you'd expand it a bit. But mainly that's the pop way of doing it. The melody, the third and the fifth.
And you'd spend a lot of time working out those melodies and those harmonies?
Sometimes. But as I say, it came easily to us, so we didn't really have to... really work hard at doing it. Graham was very particular about things. He'd want things the way he wanted them. And we did rub up against each other right from the word go. Really, when I say rub, we had a chemistry.
Yeah, there was a
the yin and the yang.
Yeah, which was essential for your success.
It seems so. Yeah, it worked that way.
Yeah.
Later on down the line, it got too much.
Yeah. Let's talk about a couple of the songs, though. 2 that I wanted to speak about were yours. Cool Change, written in London?
No, written in Mill Street, Albert Park.
All right. Tell us about that one. Cool Change.
Cool Change in 1979, 78, 79. We'd been working pretty hard, We'd started to make really good progress in the States. We'd had 3 or 4 top 10 hits.
Because you really were the first Australian band to achieve significant success in America.
With homegrown music.
Yes.
The Bee Gees, Olivia Newton-John.
Yep.
The Easy Beats had 1 hit, of course, with Friday on My Mind.
Yes.
But it was not a huge hit in America. But our claim to fame really is music produced in Melbourne and sold around the world.
Yeah.
And that was a special thing for us. And it worked. They thought we were a British band for a little while, because we talk funny.
Yeah.
And you boys aren't from around these parts, are you? How come you speak good English? I said, well, we're Australian. I know you're Australian, that little country on the other side of Switzerland. No, Australia, you fool. We had a lot of fun with them.
Of course.
Those Midwest boys.
Yeah. So you were playing some pretty big rooms too.
Eventually.
Yeah. Did it take long?
No.
How long?
A year. Wow. Then we started the limo stuff.
Right. Brian was talking before about wishing that Axiom had gone to America, not gone to England.
He's quite right.
But you learned that lesson.
Well, yes, we did.
Yeah.
And so did Wheatley, And, he realised that this was an American-sounding group.
Yeah.
And, that's... I love the way Brian puts it, we zigged when we should have zagged.
Yeah. That's right.
And he's right, but who knows? I mean, that's fate. That's kismet.
Did you have to change things, though, when you went to America?
Change things?
Yeah. Did you have to modify your act or modify your sound? Not at all.
No, didn't do anything. They were pretty complimentary about how we sounded. I remember a quote saying, how come you sound so much like your records? I went, well, whose record would you like us to sound like? No, we had a good reputation for producing it on stage.
Yeah, and you began, I imagine, working as a support band?
Yep.
Who for? Who did you support?
Doobies was one of the first ones.
Yeah.
And they were great. On about third or fourth gig, I think we did. Oh, we opened for the Average White Band.
Right.
In a college town called Harrisburg, Virginia. That was our very first gig, and the power went out halfway through our set. And Derek carried on playing a bit of drums and stuff, and then got the power going again and got the momentum back, and they gave us a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And we looked at each other and said, hey, maybe this is not too hard after all.
Yeah, right.
And then the Doobies were wonderful too. So we turned up at an open air festival. The stage was the back of a truck basically, and the Doobies were there with all their gear. They got 2 drum kits and the whole thing. And for some reason or other, our gear hadn't arrived. And they said, "Hey, God, use our stuff, man." And we went, "Really? We can use your gear? Yeah, go ahead." Because you have to realise back in Australia, there was a fairly stiff competition between people. People would pull the power out on each other in those days. Yeah, if you were going down too well before you went on. But no, the Doobies explained later. I said, "Hey, if you guys sound good, before we come on, you got the crowd up, and we'll carry on."
Of course. I wanted to ask you about sort of attitudes within the industry in Australia versus America versus England.
Yeah, it's or Japan, perhaps. There's all sorts of differences. Well, basically, the fundamental is America. That's they are the fundamentalist rock and roll audience. I mean, they invented the genre, the culture.
Yep.
And the rest of the world got on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
So people see the way people react, the Americans react, and on television, they were pretty respectful. The shindigs and the bandstand, they were fairly, quiet and whatever. But live-wise, they were really demonstrative.
Well, they're incredibly enthusiastic, Americans.
Well, it's their culture. They cherish it. And, we do it secondhand a little bit. So English are probably the worst, I think. They're pretty dismal.
In terms of response and...
Yeah, just put your hands together, what I mean?
Yeah.
The Japanese, of course, they just sit there very quietly and then go loony at the end of end of each song. That's kind of strange.
So do you think there is a sort of distinct Australian sound?
No. No, I'm not. That's off the top of my head. I couldn't give you an example apart from, a band like Red Gum or
Midnight Oil, perhaps.
Midnight Oil, yeah, I guess so. But there's
still an American
solid rock. Goanna.
Yeah,
that was a Australian sound. But I really love the didgeridoo sound, you know,
Yeah.
and that gives it a great Australian
Yeah.
identity, I think.
Yeah.
But by and large, you know, we were trying to do what the overseas people were doing. Not now. I mean, we have our own Aussie way of doing things.
Of course.
In all the forms of creativity in the arts, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So LRB, incredible success in America. Now we talked about Twilight's breaking up because you were a band of brothers. What happened at the end of LRB?
Well, there is no end of LRB. It's still going.
That's true.
There's a ghost of LRB out there somewhere.
Yes.
You know, it's a phantom little river band.
I know.
Skulking through the night. I'm writing the book, so
Are you?
yeah, I'm about halfway through now.
Right.
I'm up to 95, and that's my last incarnation with Little River Band. Little River Band was a revolving door.
Yes.
Doing my own research for the book, I've counted approximately 30 people that were in Little River Band.
Right.
Not 30 people were the core members of or became directors of the company Little River Band, but, you know, people hired and left, whatever. About 30 people, you know, that's a lot. You know, to be truthful, I mean, I suffered the revolving door as well. You know, they fired me basically and got John Farnham, and then John Farnham left and they got me back. And then later on after that, they got rid of me again.
Who fired you the first time?
Well, they didn't really fire me. They just took a vote.
Right.
And
With your knowledge?
No.
They're the worst votes, aren't
Well, it was to my knowledge, the vote was taken while I was there,
they? Yes.
but I didn't know what was going on behind my back.
Yeah.
So I carry that baggage a bit.
Of course. And so what about going back after John Farnham had been with them? Was that weird?
It was kind of, I told you so. Not really. I felt justified in a way.
Yeah.
But, you know, because I've always been, you know, the fellowship part of what I've done all my life has been very important.
Yes.
You know, I've made some really close people and close friends. And to have people behind your back doing stuff, that's not the way I do things.
No.
So, you know, as I say, it's I was quite happy that they wanted me back in there. But by then the momentum had been lost. And but the opportunity was there to go back. And
Was the playing as good, did you think?
Yeah.
The magic was there in terms of performance.
I guess not the magic per se, because everybody really got used to that classic lineup, which wasn't the original lineup anyway. But the classic lineup was the three of us out front: Birtles, Shorrock, and Goble, David Briggs on guitar, George McArdle on bass, Derek Pellicci on drums, and there was always a side man, a keyboard guy.
Yep.
And there was a lot of those over the years. So that was the classic lineup that everybody thinks about. But the hardcore fans, you know, they kept with us as we kept evolving or not evolving.
Yeah, right.
It's a soap opera, you know. It's good fun.
It's good that you're writing about it. I love that.
Yeah. No, I when I say I got the baggage, I mean I was a good performer before Little River Band. You know, I had the Axiom and Twilights, you know, and I fronted those two great bands, and then I got LRB as well. So and then after that, I decided, well, you know, I'll just try other things, and you know, my voice is still good, so you know, I'll keep singing.
Your voice
and
is
I've
still incredible,
and I've got that great body of work behind me
to draw from. So, what are the things you like doing now? Performance-wise.
Thank you. I can't do the other, but performance-wise, just going out there and singing the songs.
Doing gigs.
Doing gigs. So there's been a lot of variety came my way. I've done some theatre work. I've done some television work, some radio. And
The big theatre show you did, well, you did Shout.
I did Shout. That's the last one I did. I did Evita.
Yes.
Rocky Horror Show. And I'm working on another one. Well, Brian and I have sketched out a musical, but I don't think we'll be in it.
Right. But you enjoy those productions?
I like the theatre.
Yes. You're happy doing the same thing night after night?
Yeah, because you surrender yourself to the product, to the
rhythm,
the ensemble.
Yes.
Which I really like.
The jigsaw, all the parts.
Yeah,
fit.
the personalities involved. Whereas in a rock and roll band, you've got to instill a bit of self-discipline, and you haven't got somebody saying, well, you haven't got a director, unless you're Bruce Springsteen and the Bruce Springsteen band or whatever. But all the bands I've been with have been fairly democratic, and that's good. That's the way I like to work. I don't like, guys telling me what to do. I'll take it from a theatre point of view.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
You're just another cog in the wheel.
When you're doing your shows with Brian, I've seen you perform. You two are very comfortable with each other. You're very funny. Do you love that interaction with an audience?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's always been humour as part of my life.
Yeah.
If Elvis hadn't come along, I would have been the new Peter Sellers. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be
stand-up or...
No, not stand-up, but just take character roles and dress up and...
Do your voices.
Do theatre, do theatrical stuff.
Yeah.
The Twilights, we used to stop the show and put on a little melodrama.
Did you?
At one stage, yeah. One of those... Da, 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 da. Oh, the villain and all that sort of stuff.
And the audience would have loved it.
They did. For a while. And then they said, can you play some more music, please?
LRB, was there a little bit of chat?
No. That's one of the reasons why I got ousted, because I was a bit too entertaining.
Ah, right.
We were a serious band.
Right.
So we were not that serious. You got me in it.
Yeah. So it annoyed them that you were cracking jokes and...
No, just...
being a bit loose, maybe.
Yeah, running around the stage and... doing what lead singers do.
Yeah.
Well,
it's been an incredible life. What I did want to ask you, just to, in a way, to close, I suppose, is this idea of Australian music, developing, because there's something about our isolation. Mm-hmm. And I suppose I just wonder if you could talk for a moment about the influence of America, the influence of England on Australian music.
Well, if it hadn't been for that music coming out of America, I don't think it would have come out of Australia in the first place, or even England.
No. And yet, for you, the Beatles were massive, weren't they?
Yeah, well, the Beatles were... the planets aligned.
Yeah.
When you think back at the statistics, they did 12 albums in 7 years. And that was it, from 1963 to 1970. Yep. And then they split up. Just 7 years. And 7 years now, to me, it sounds like a week.
Yes.
I mean, I've been doing it for 52 years.
Yes. So where could they have gone?
Oh, who knows? Maybe they would have exploded anyway. I don't know.
That's right.
No, they were God's gift to music. It was a dance craze to begin with, wasn't it? Rock and roll.
Yeah.
You danced to it. That was it. You didn't listen to the lyrics too much. Womp bump blue bump long bamboo. That's just something to sing.
Yeah.
But the Beatles just came along and turned it into an art form.
Yeah.
Not overnight, but for someone like me, it just caught my ear. I actually, when I first heard Please Please Me, which was released in Australia before Love Me Do was, because EMI Australia didn't release it. They didn't think it was that good to release. Right. And then Please Please Me was the first. And when I heard it on the radio, I didn't know who it was. And I thought, have the Everly Brothers, they've got a bit rock and roll, Because it had that two-part harmony to it.
Yeah.
But, you know, as they progressed, they just
Yeah,
took us to the top of the mountain.
remarkable. Glenn Shorrock, thank you for your part in the Australian Music Vault.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your music.
Yeah, that was lovely. Thanks.